Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Cafe. We are here for a coffee conversation, and I am joined by Mallory, and I am going to let her introduce herself a little further after this. But she is a growth strategist, community builder, and educator who's led teams, companies like Pinterest, Compass, Cameo, Mercury, and Maven. Say that all 10 times fast. What an incredible resume. Her work sits at the intersection of brand, product, and psychology, helping startups build trust, scale, research, and drive engagement with intention. Today, she leads the Old Girls Club, which I'm proud to be a member of, a
Yeah.
private network for ambitious mid and late career women, as well as serving as VP Growth at Maven. Which is an educational marketplace for mid-career growth professionals, upskill with experts in their fields through cohort-based learning. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I want to start off, I love reading people's bios, but I want to hear your career journey. Like, let's go back to the beginning. Where did this all start? Let's get the Mallory 1.0.
Okay, it's so long. I'm so old now. No, I grew up in rural Connecticut, in
Love
like a
it.
very blue collar town. Mostly like there were doctors, lawyers, people that worked in insurance, and then blue collar jobs, and
Mm.
those were like the paths that I knew about as a kid and that were modeled to me. Um, and so of those, becoming a doctor seemed most interesting to me, especially because my dad was a doctor and my mom was a nurse. And so I went to Duke, I was pre-med, and
Wow.
I took a couple of psychology classes as part of my like pre-med curriculum. And it was very obvious very quickly that I was much more interested in psychology and like more liberal arts type education than I was in like chemistry and biology. And the grades reflected that as well. So I spent a lot more time thinking about, I felt very lucky that I went to a liberal arts college that I could kind of like dive into
Mhm.
some of those less career focused classes and more into like what I was actually interested in and I found fascinating. And a lot of that was psych. And so I spent time, actually originally thought I was going to go get my PhD to be a child psychiatrist or a child psychologist. And then when I graduated, I just like didn't totally feel ready to do another 6 years of school. So I went to work at a startup.
I
And
don't blame you.
sorry.
I don't blame you for not wanting
Oh
to do the
yeah,
extra
no, I was
six.
just like also I was like I am a child. Like I am a child. How am I supposed to be a child psychologist right now? I would need my own services. So I was like we're going to take a breather and I'm going to go work and like I want to go live in New York City and I want to do all the things and so I joined an ad tech startup in 2012, which looking back was like so the right thing for me to do. But
Mhm.
in the moment, I was like, I have no idea what's happening. And it was, a chaotic early stage company, right as we were figuring out like programmatic ad buying and like online ads and things like that, which I know seems like it was like 100 years ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And I fell in love with it. I just thought that like internet behavior was so interesting and that
Mhm.
people were like so weird and like why were people responding to like these ads and not those ads or these products, not those products. And that's kind of where a lot of my obsession with the interaction of like human psychology and tech and like consumer behavior started. And then I ended up following a female mentor of mine. Her name's Corinne Roman. She's amazing. And I worked for her at that first company, and she went to LinkedIn, and I was lucky enough to get to follow her there. And so I got that entry into that bigger tech world. And that was awesome. I learned how to be an adult there. It was my first job. I was doing a lot of like data entry and stuff like that. And then I went to Pinterest and I was there for 5 years. So I got really lucky. I was first 100 people at Pinterest. So
Wow.
I helped build the whole thing. We weren't making any money when I joined. I helped put the first ad on the platform. I have all
No
kinds of
way.
crazy stories from that time. And it was just the best because we all were like Pinterest obsessed. Obviously, we all thought it was like the best thing ever. And it was my first experience building something that I actually loved and putting it in the hands of like millions and millions and millions of people. And at the time of my life there, I was there for 5 years. I was there from 100 people to 2,500 employees. And it was so hard to leave. I wanted to like die there. It was
Oh,
just, and like not then. I wanted to like
yeah.
live the rest of my life out at Pinterest
You want
because
to retire there.
I wanted to retire there and then also hang around after that. Like it was just the best. But I was really starting to get a sense of who I was as like an adult and like a human at that point. And I'm such a builder. Like I'm such a
Mm.
0 to 1. I want I love the chaos. I love the unanswered questions. I love the like problem solving and research and like trying things and experimentation. And once you get to being a 2,500 person company that's making $1 billion a year, there's just a lot less of that. And
Yeah.
so I left, and then I've been at a series of really cool companies since then, from early stage to sort of like stabilization. And I've learned that that's like kind of my cue a lot of the time when we get to the place where it's a stable business and it's doing really well. I'm a little bored, and I've sort of done my time, and I've given so much to that company at that point that I moved to a new early stage challenge. And so that very long, annoying list to read kind of reflects that of all of those companies were very early when I joined them. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to integrate how we were designing the product along with like the messaging and the brand, along with how we were communicating with our users and like creating sort of organic growth loops out of that and then getting that brand to a more stable place where people knew about it, they're using it, there are fewer or unanswered questions, and then I find my next adventure. So it's been great. And OGC has Old Girls Club, as you mentioned, has been my side project for the last 3.5 years, and it's been so fun and so rewarding. And it's really where I learned that I was very good at connecting people and creating spaces that were like outcomes based, and it's been great.
Which this is why I love to have guests unpack their own journey because like I can read your bio, but that is
Bios
just
are the worst. Also, writing bios is the
yeah,
worst because you're like, how do I explain my life in 3 sentences? It just like always comes out horrible.
right. And people are like, I'm reduced to 3 to 5 cents. That's it. I'm
I'm
like, yes,
reduced to
that's your entire
a
career.
an extremely alliterative list of like companies. I did myself no favors. I did no, sorry. I did Medify, Mercury, Maven
Yeah.
all in a row. And now I'm constantly like messing that up. So it's tough.
Yeah, it was a great tongue twister. I appreciate it. But I also want to take a step back too. We're going to unpack everything with Old Girls Club because it's amazing. But also, like, I want to highlight you went to LinkedIn and Pinterest before they were what we know them as now. Like,
Yeah.
and you've done that over and over and over again. Like, what does it take for you personally to say, like, I'm going to throw away now what's being at a more stable company and jump in and be like, I want to build from the ground up. Like, talk me
Yeah.
through where that drive comes from, all of
Yeah.
that.
Okay. I love this question so much because I think people have this perception of me that I'm like a risk taker. I'm like this big risk-taking person, but I consider myself to be one of the most risk-averse people that I know. Like,
Interesting.
and I love unpacking this because it's always a really fun conversation. I make these decisions so deliberately and with
Mm.
so much research, and I think that like my brain, because of my background in psychology and also my just like, I'm also just like chronically online and I'm very interested in like the macro ecosystem of like what people are doing and culture and like that kind of thing. And so when I'm considering like two things kind of happen at once, one of which is like wherever I'm at gets to that place where I'm like, okay, heck yeah. Like, can I swear on? Is this a swearing podcast? No.
Heck yeah, go for it.
Okay. We'll do gentle.
Yeah,
I'll keep it PG-13.
perfect.
So I get to that place and I'm like, this is amazing. It's working. Like we figured it out and there's no better feeling than that. Like it is the best. It's the best experience as a team. It's the best to like have worked with somebody for like 2 or 3 years and have built this thing and like have it be working and have it have traction. So I love that part. So it starts to get to that point, and then I start to feel the like itch of like, oh, what else is like out? Like, what else can I build? And usually around that same time, I start to really tune into what are some of the macro trends that are happening right now? Where do I
Mm.
think things are headed? I put on some of my like futurism hat and be like, okay, based on everything I know about this ecosystem, like what do I think is set up for success in the next like 3 to 5 years? Where are their tailwinds? Because again, going back to me being risk averse, I don't want to go somewhere that's not going to work. Like, I don't want to go somewhere that I'm going to be having to like battle the reality of the world. If you look at the pattern of companies that I've been at, every single one of them has been a response to a tailwind that's been in the macro ecosystem. So some
Mm,
examples are Pinterest was like the first discovery, the internet was like becoming a place that was a little bit more than Google at that point, but
yeah.
no one had, it was very search based and people were just starting to like figure out that there was a browse mentality and that people wanted to like curate, not just search and find. And so joining Pinterest, I felt like it was the obvious answer to that. Compass, when I joined Compass, like the big real estate brokerages were so old school, and Compass was coming in with not like crazy advanced tech, but like new, shiny, modern tech that was like so obviously better than what was out there right then. And so it felt inevitable that they were going to succeed in the market that they were in. Cameo I joined in 2020 during COVID when people
Mm.
needed to find other ways to connect with each other that were not in person. And like people were looking for just like lighthearted joy because we all needed to feel something. And they also had unlocked this, like, it was perfect timing with like creator economy and people wanting to like have a more intimate relationship with celebrities and with influencers. And so all of the tailwinds supported Cameo growing at that point. And then Mercury came at the time when like a lot of the big banks were I actually joined. I can't claim that I did it in response to SVB's collapse because SVB collapsed 3 months after I joined, but there were a lot of things happening in business banking at the time where there wasn't a clear winner. People were wanting something more tech forward, and Mercury already had a lot of really good traction. And then finally with Maven, I just really see that there is a need for a new type of secondary education or sorry, post-grad education where adults, especially with AI now and things changing so quickly, like learning is the only way that people are going to stay relevant. And Maven is such a good response and solution to that I personally just think is like a win-win for everybody. And so there is a sense of inevitability in its growth over time. I can't predict what's going to become a billion-dollar business, even though I mean, like not all of the companies I've been at have become billion-dollar businesses, but they have all grown in like 2 or 3 years that I've been there. So that's sort of what I look for are that sense of inevitability where I feel pretty sure that I'm going to experience it's not necessarily that I'm going to make a ton of money off of equity there, but I'm going to be well paid and I'm going to learn a bunch of new stuff because we're going to grow so quickly that it's going to be that kind of experience for me.
I also think it's interesting too. Like you've been in such different industries
Mm.
and so many people, and I see them make, I'll say this mistake, especially too, like with AI and things emerging, people are so afraid to leave their industry. And
Hmm.
I'm like, be willing to, who moved my cheese? Like, be willing to evolve, be willing to try new things and the
Yeah.
learning, like going with Maven, like dip your toe into different industries. And that is what I love so much about your career is all the different industries that you have been a part of.
Yeah, I think that the industry context is, of course, helpful when you're joining a new company. But I think so many industries, like everyone has context on, like everyone has rented an apartment or bought a house, and like
Yeah.
everyone has like interacted with celebrities online, and everybody had like people have more context on more industries than they think. I think like I've been banking for 20 years, like
Yeah.
I've had my money with banks. Like that means I understand the user experience. And so I totally agree with you that I think it feels really comfortable to stay in an industry that you have like expansive context in. But the reality is like transferring your skills between industries is only going to make them stronger because you're
Mhm.
sort of I actually think of it as like, you know how when you set up your Touch ID on your phone and like you put your fingerprint down, then you have to like roll it around a bunch to like finish it. Like I feel like your skill set is like the first part, and then you like have to move industries to like roll it around and fill out the like edges of it,
Yeah.
because there's like the core stays the same, but there's all these like edge cases that come up in different spaces, which is always really fun to learn.
Well, I think it also makes you a more well-rounded person throughout your life, right? Like how
Mhm.
boring could it be to just stay and go from company to company in the same industry? I'm like, learn something new. Like how exciting is that?
It is. It's really exciting. And like again, I get it. I understand the path of staying in an industry, and there is a path there. Like there are people that have
Yeah.
really amazing careers by being specialists in a specific industry and they know everything there is to know, especially in legacy industries or really complicated, like compliance-based industries, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the knowledge is so deep and there is so much to learn. But I think also what you're saying is true is that it is really fun to apply your skills to a bunch of different things because then you just learn more about how the world works too. Like I know so we're about to buy our first house and like I know
Congrats.
well, I mean, we haven't started looking, but like
Well,
we're like, we're we're heading towards that direction the next six
it's
to
still
12
exciting.
but I know so much more about the real estate industry just because I worked at Compass eight
Yeah.
years ago, and like that's useful. It's great.
And from you know also like who to contact, who to
Mhm.
trust, who to not trust as
Yeah,
well. It's
building
like
your
both
network,
sides.
also moving industries, because again, with like the fingerprint thing, when you stay in the same industry, you're sort of just like adding edge people each time you move companies versus when
Yeah.
you move industries, you're building these entire new networks in spaces that you just don't even know how you're going to need them for in the future, you know?
Yeah, that is so true. I'd love to talk about now how Old Girls Club fits into all of this. And transparently, I am a member. I joined back in April, and it has been nothing short of an incredible experience. Like, I am in awe of
Oh,
what you
I'd love
built.
to hear that. I actually didn't realize you had joined that recently. I'm so
Yeah,
happy to hear that.
I'm a newbie. I'm a baby. So let's first start too. I'd love to hear from your point of view, and I can also add in a little bit too from a,
Yeah,
member
a member
experience, what
perspective.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of history on the Old Girls Club. I spent the majority of the first, 15 years of my career in rooms with a lot of men. And I am not anti-man. I am married to a man. I have had so many men in my career lift me up and be supportive and be incredible people. And I just found that the more senior I got, the fewer women I had around me.
Wow.
And that was hard. Like I wanted to have a more balanced community and I wanted to have more people who understood what it was like to be on your period and like what it was like to go through IVF and what it was like just things that like men as compassionate as they may be will never understand because they don't go through it. And so what had happened was that I was the COO at a seed gaming company, and we had just raised a Series A. And it was my job to like build out a very large budget as a result of the raise. And I had no idea what I was doing. Like, no, I was not qualified to be doing this. I had never done this before. It's not really the kind of thing you can turn around to your CEO and be like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing." And
And there was no
so
chat GPT at
and there
this
was
time.
no chat. Yes, that's a really actually important
Yeah.
contextual point is like I couldn't talk to my girl chat GPT about it.
Yeah.
And so I called a couple of friends, or not even friends, like acquaintances that I had worked with in the past who happened to be women who I felt were the like they would just be really empathetic and understanding about the situation I was in and non-judgmental and like really be there to help me because they had helped me in the past. And I was like, can I just like throw us all in a Slack meeting? I think it'd be kind of fun. And like, I could use the help. And like, I'm sure that like you guys could use a second set of eyes on things. Is that cool? Like, that's literally how it started.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really casual and like night. It just felt like, I don't know, like you and I hanging out here. Like,
Yeah.
it was very chill. And it was all kind of people I knew already. And then I went home for the Christmas holiday that year and I was drinking and I had a lot of cheese and like wine. And I was just like, that week between Christmas and New Year's where you're like,
Hmm.
what is happening? Like, what am I doing
What
with my
day is
life?
it?
And like, you go into like existential crisis mode and,
Yep.
whatever. Um, that's where I was at. And I posted on LinkedIn and I was like, man, I don't even know. It was a rage post. And I was just like, it's so unfair that like women are so often expected to have all the answers and show up and be like super pulled together and not be able to show that they don't know everything. And then also they're like managing families and they're doing all this stuff. Like, I don't know. It was just a rant. But somewhere in me, I had the wherewithal to like put a type form link. I was
Oh,
like, if you feel this way too. And I went to bed and then I woke up the next morning and I had a lot of emails that were like,
no
yeah, me too.
way.
I agree. And I called my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and we had been dating for like 3 months. This was pretty new. And I called him and I was like, I messed up so bad. Like, I have all these emails of strangers that like think I'm gonna help them, and like I was just drunk. I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm so busy. Like, I'm sure
What
they're
am I
all
gonna do?
lovely.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? And I tell this story all the time. I don't know if he listens to any of these, but if he does, I hope so. But he basically was just he said some version of like, what's the worst that can happen? That they're
Mm.
going to be like what you tried to help, like. I was like, the worst that can happen is that I can put all these people into a space and it's like a bad user experience. And he was like, what is wrong with you? Like, what? What does that even mean? Like, no one's gonna think that. And so I was like, all right, I guess you're right, fine. And so I'm neurotic and I designed up a Slack community and I was like, okay, if I was these people, this is what I would expect to like happen when I get here. It was very like what you know as OGC now, it was an extremely pared down version of that.
Yeah.
But it was organized and there was like a path and it was like, here's what we're gonna do here, here's what we're not gonna do here. And like, don't make it weird. Like, I set some very clear, like, I was like, I'm not trying to deal with any like bullshit here. Like, I'm busy. So, like, don't make this a weird space. Let's just like be normal. And it was awesome. It grew to 1,000 people so fast because it was free at the time. And people were like,
Yeah.
can I invite my friend so and so? And I was like, yeah, whatever, like house party, great, fine. Um, and that lasted about 3 months until I was like, I can't do this is crazy. Like, I don't know what is happening. I've never done this before. Like, I'm a product and operations person, not whatever this is. Like, this feels unaligned. I'm confused. And so then I was like, I'm gonna put a paywall on it because then I'll get paid because I'm like spending a lot of time on this actually, and everyone will leave. I was like, no one's gonna stay. Like, that would be weird. And I was like, perfect. It'll be like 100 people and it'll be back and I'll be making like a cute $1,000 a month and like it'll be great. And so I put the paywall up and like I of course like over explained it. I didn't want anyone to be mad at me. And I put the paywall up and like 10% of people left. And everybody's and I was like, why are you all still here?
You were like, wait, wait, please leave.
I was like, oh, shoot, okay. And so that's when I started taking it a lot more seriously of like, okay, like there's clearly a gap in the market here in terms of support for this group of people, particularly women that are like, I would say our average member is between 30 and 50, juggling a lot, feeling like pretty misunderstood in their professional spaces, and just wants a space where people are like, dude, yeah, totally get that. Like, I'm also a mess right now. And that was the big thing for me is that all the other women's professional spaces that I had been in previously were so polished.
Mm.
And I always felt there was such an expectation for me to show up with like my hair done, my makeup done, like everything's amazing, like my career is fantastic. And like in reality, I was like, everything's a mess. And it just didn't feel like a good use of my time. And so that's been the biggest thing that has been consistent the whole time, which has always been a level of like, this is a space where we are truthful and we are authentic and we are like talking about the reality of our world, not some glossy version of it that we certainly don't need yet another space to have to like perform that way. And I think that's why people love it so much, is it just feels like such a safe space. I had someone send me the funniest text message the other day that was something like it's like a dive bar of like it's a dive bar of like professional knowledge of like cool women. I was like,
Wait, that
what?
is so true.
Yeah, it's like very chill in like a very not chill kind of way. It's great. I'm
To
very,
also give it context for those listening, correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers. There's over 2,200
yeah, I think
people
we're
now in this
at
group.
around 2,300 now.
Okay.
So you're
Yeah.
about right. Yeah, and we over 1 million messages sent over
Wow.
time, which is crazy. I just pulled up the stats because I wanted to pull the all time, but Slack only gives you the past 3 months, and we're at 400,000 every 3 months. It's crazy. And that sounds chaotic and like terrifying, but it doesn't feel that way. It's just like
No.
there's just a heavy volume of conversation happening, which is really cool. I'm very proud of it.
And what I will also say from that member view is that I have been in a lot of women's organizations and groups,
Mhm.
and so many times you're being sold to, judged,
Yes.
you name it. And what I
Yes.
think is so cool is every event I've shown up to, networking call, one-on-one coffee chat, you name it, like It's been chill.
Everybody's chill. Everybody's just like,
Everyone.
why are we getting, there's no reason to get worked up. Like
Yeah,
it's, we have enough other things to deal with. Like we can just
right.
relax.
My favorite chat, there's multiple chats that are in this Slack channel. My
Yes,
favorite one
channel.
is yes, thank you, is the yelling in all caps.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
called Yellen Caps here.
yeah, it's fantastic. And sometimes I just read it. I'm like, yeah, I agree.
So therapeutic.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about making a like coffee table book of it
Oh
just
my,
because
please.
it would be incredible. It's just so good because um it's just so therapeutic to read other people yelling about stuff that you also want to yell about and like even just reading other you don't even have to yell. Like you can just read other people yelling and you're like, "Oh, they get it. They get
Yeah.
it. It's okay."
And everyone agrees.
Yeah, that and I will say that channel was in the original set of like
Wow.
when that was I think the best idea I've ever had in my entire life. Like I think that was truly my biggest moment of brilliance is giving women a space to just yell into the internet ether. And for anybody listening, the expectation is sort of that it's not like a problem solving space. It's not like somebody yelling and then everybody trying to help them like figure
Hmm.
it out. It's just yelling together or like yelling and then like a bunch of people reacting with like emojis being like, yeah, us too. So it's very much about just the act of like, ah, not like, oh, well, you could do this, 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 and this. And like, there aren't a lot of spaces for that. My phone just popped up with somebody yelling.
Yeah,
I do have the notifications on for the chat, and that's my favorite to get.
that is fantastic. I would keep those on too because that's the most important notifications to get.
Yep.
Perfect timing. One question I want to wrap up with is you had mentioned, you sit here and you think macro big things that are coming. What do you think are some of the big shifts and things that we are going to see coming in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. I think I was just reading this really interesting article this morning about how like it's there's this phrase rolling around that's like brain rot summer where like this summer has been like the least cultural summer of a really long time. Like there hasn't been like a defining song, there hasn't been like a vibe, there hasn't been a and Gen Z is very much like where what's happening and at the same time millennials I think are rooting themselves in nostalgia, right? Like the
Mm,
Backstreet Boys concert at the Sphere is sold out and like we're all just like trying to bring ourselves back. We're talking a lot about the early 2000s and 2010s. And I think millennials have like aged out of creating the cultural vibes. Like we're on
we're
our own
done.
path at this point, and it's up to the younger generations to decide what those are. But I do think that there is this like move toward a more like reality check type of existence of like the lifestyle influencers that are all lying about like they're buying stuff from Revolve and like doing the try on hauls and then like returning it. Like stuff
Hmm.
like that that is like just not real. I think there's already a lot of movement away from that, but I think even more so in the next few years, it's just we're gonna see a huge shift in that. And then I think there's gonna be like, especially as our lifetimes get longer, as we think about like the economy changing so much, like what does it look like for us to be working when we're like 40 and 50 and 60 and 70? And like how long is life is long. And so I do think there is going to be this transition into this sort of like seasons of life mentality of like every decade is going to be a little bit different and it can't get boring. Like you have to continue to reinvent yourself. You have to continue to like connect with new people. I think there's gonna be a battle against AI of like how do we hold on to the human like connection piece of existence? Like how do we stay rooted in a reality of like common belief systems? I wouldn't be surprised if religion and things like that have another comeback just because of the like human connection aspect.
Mm,
I would imagine that there will be another wave of like movements of like people with shared values. I mean, I consider OGC to be this in some capacity of like a gathering of people who have a set of shared experiences or viewpoints or whatever it is, and they enjoy being in a space together because it's a shared reality. It's like holding on to something that is real and we know is real versus the curated version of the world that we're getting on the internet. So yeah, I think those are all like None of those were like, here's the next billion-dollar company. But I think those are all trends that we're going to see reflected, and particularly social and like how people are using their phones and technology and AI and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see. I'm happy to be in the education space right now. I think learning is going to continue to just be like we're all going to be figuring out who we are and what we can contribute to society for a really long time. I think our jobs are going to change a ton. I think it's going to be much more fluid. And so I think education and like having space to learn from like real people who can give good advice. Good advice is another thing that comes up for me, which is like it's increasingly difficult to figure out whose advice you should be listening to on the internet or in your life. So I think that'll be another interesting thing. Anyway, that was a long ADHD fueled ramble of random things.
No, I think it was amazing. And everyone wants like the next like $1 billion, what is this going to be? But sometimes it is just this like slow shift and evolving. And especially too, I love what you said about longevity. And I see it a lot too as we're
Mm.
talking about like wealth building, financial planning. We
Yep.
see it so much in, I see it a lot, especially too with the 40 to 60 age bracket. I see a
Mhm.
lot of people reinventing themselves in terms of their financial goals. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting for me to hear you say that.
And in terms of their identities, like
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more and more. I love a pivot. I love a midlife pivot from a career perspective, from a business perspective, whatever it is that you're doing, a lifestyle pivot, a change in dynamics, family, divorce, getting married, whatever it is. Like, I think as people continue to grow, being aware of that self growth and doing something about it is so important. Um, and so I think we're going to see more and more of that as our lives get longer because you just can't do the same thing for 80 years. Like it's just not, I don't think it's possible. But I am also really excited about that. I think it gives us like such a dynamic essence as humans. Like we can just become anything that we want. And OGC is a bootstrapped business. Like I think back to your sort of wealth building point, I think, we're seeing a lot more businesses of one and like because people can do a lot more with AI and with tools and things like that, like bootstrapping a business is amazing. I would recommend it to anybody. It's slower. It's taken me 3.5 years to have like real traction, but I own everything and I have total control over it and I can take it at any pace I want. And there's no expectation of anything that I'm going to do with it. So bootstrapping and building a business is really just such an incredible experience and it is such a sustainable strategy. And control is really nice to have right now.
Yeah. And you've built something so incredible and
Thank you.
authentic. So
Thank you.
the final question I like to ask everybody is what is one thing you do every single day that makes you feel wealthy?
Mm. Um, I have one, at least one, usually many, like very focused conversation with my husband. Like I think I feel so lucky that I am in a relationship where we are a true partnership. We are a dual income household. We really treat this journey of life as like a team. And I think I feel very wealthy and very lucky to have that in somebody. And so I try to invest into that bucket every day if I can.
That's beautiful. I love it. Now, if everybody wants to connect with you, we're going to put all of your information down in the show notes. But if you want to
Right?
share anything else, please feel free to drop where people can connect with you here.
Yeah, LinkedIn is best. I write a lot on there, mostly about things around momentum and getting unstuck and really just trying to navigate all the weird stuff in the world right now. So LinkedIn is best. I teach on Maven as well. And those cohorts open every once in a while, so you can check me out there. But LinkedIn's a great place to connect.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was an amazing conversation. And thank you, everyone, for listening in. And we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye, thank you.